Today I will be going over how African pouched rats can detect tuberculosis. Tuberculosis remains one of the deadliest infectious diseases in the world, especially in countries with limited access to medical resources. Today I'm going to talk about a possible solution: Gambian pouched rats. These specially trained animals are being used to diagnose tuberculosis more quickly and affordably than traditional methods, and I believe that they have the potential to become a widely accessible tool for global health. So, a little bit about tuberculosis before we get into what these rats do. Tuberculosis, or TB, is a bacterial infection that typically affects the lungs. It spreads through the air when someone with active TB coughs, sneezes, or even speaks. In 2023, the World Health Organization estimated that 10.8 billion people contracted TB and 1.25 million people died from it. Despite it being preventable and treatable, TB remains a major global health threat. The organization behind these working rats is APOPO. It was founded in 1997 by Bart Weetjens and Christophe Cox in Belgium with the goal of training scent detection rats for humanitarian use. APOPO's main training and research center is in Murago, Tanzania. Today, their hero rats are helping to detect landmines as well as diagnose tuberculosis in countries like Angola, Cambodia, Ethiopia, Mozambique, and Tanzania. So, how do these rats actually detect tuberculosis? They use their strong sense of smell to detect 6 specific volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, that are released by Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria. The rats are trained through a process called clicker conditioning, where they learn to associate the smell of TB with a food reward. Once the rat is fully trained, it works hard to find the TB scent, knowing it will be rewarded for every correct identification. At the end of this training, the rats must evaluate 500 samples and not miss a single positive patient. Once they are able to successfully do this, they are an official TB detecting rat. So, just a little bit about APOPO's success. APOPO's hero rats have had a major impact. They've helped detect over 32,000 additional TB cases that were missed by the standardized testing. Altogether, they've screened more than 1 million samples, and thanks to their work, it's estimated that 300,000 potential new tuberculosis infections were prevented. I wanted to highlight one specific rat. This rat's name is Caroline. She had a 7-year career and detected over 3,000 cases of tuberculosis. She was able to screen 100 samples in just 20 minutes, something that would take a human up to 4 days to process using a microscope. She's a part of the cohort of 48 trained rats currently working to detect TB in countries, including Tanzania and Ethiopia. On the right, I've included a picture of Caroline from a National Geographic article that I read. In 2022 alone, APOPO's rats identified over 2,000 tuberculosis cases that were completely missed by standard smear microscopy and MTB/RIF testing. This represents more than half of all confirmed TB cases at the participating DOT facilities. Rats were shown to be 6 times more likely to detect tuberculosis in patients with low bacterial loads, who often go undiagnosed by conventional methods. This figure breaks down tuberculosis detection by standard DOT smear microscopy versus DOT smear plus rat screening confirmed by LED microscopy. You can see when rats were included in the diagnostic process, the represented bars on the right, there was a much higher percentage of low-grade TB detections, especially in smear grade plus/minus, which represents early or low bacterial infections. For example, among children, detections in this category jumped from 58% to 81% when rats were involved. This reinforces that rats are especially effective in catching cases that traditional microscopy tends to miss, helping close dangerous diagnostic gaps. One of the biggest challenges with traditional TB testing is that it often misses cases with low bacterial loads, and this is especially for children. Apopo's rats provide a solution that is not only fast and accurate, but also scalable and low cost. Importantly, the rats have a high negative predictive value of about 94%. This meaning that when a rat doesn't detect tuberculosis, there's a very high chance that the patient truly does not have it. And lastly, I'd like to go over a little bit of a cost comparison. When we compare the cost of and effectiveness of different tuberculosis testing methods, the advantages of a rat-based detection stands out. Traditional smear microscopy is affordable, only about $2 to $7 per test, but it only detects 60 to 70% of active cases. Gene Expert is more accurate and provides faster results, but is significantly more expensive. It can be up to $20 per test, and the equipment itself can cost around $17,000. In contrast, Apopo's rat detection costs about $1 per test and requires a one-time investment of around $9,000 per trained rat. Most importantly, it improves detection by approximately 40% over smear microscopy, especially for patients who would otherwise be missed. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.